Well, a little bit of fun today. You'll remember that recently I have been responding to some woke research and surveys out of universities and infiltrating myself and answering them. One was a survey from Massey University sent to principals, and it was asking about how woke my school was and whether I was indoctrinating the children with InsideOut material, which I wasn't. And then the second was a study from Victoria University in Wellington, which was trying to practice conversion therapy on me and make me more loving and accepting of paedophilia. You'll be glad to know it didn't work. But today I'm doing a survey from Western Sydney University about the inclusion of transgender and gender diverse health in the medicine curriculum across Aotearoa, New Zealand and Australia. This should be fun. So this is the information sheet which I was sent, and you'll see there, project title, Barriers to Care for Transgender and Gender Diverse People with Endometriosis, Gaps in Australian and Aotearoa Healthcare Provider Curriculum. So you'll see there the emphasis appears to be on endometriosis, but it continues. This research is investigating the inclusion of transgender and gender diverse, TGD, health and medical and complementary and alternative medicine curriculum across Aotearoa, New Zealand and Australia. And it says TGD people accessing healthcare, particularly gynecological care. So who can do this survey? Well, you'll see there that the survey is open to medical and complementary and alternative medicine students currently enrolled in their final year of undergraduate study in Australia or New Zealand. And to participate in the survey, you must be 18 or over and enrolled in your final year of a medical degree in Australia or New Zealand. But, as you can see, anyone, including Chanel Lau, staff from InsideOut, or even Bob McCoskrie, could do this survey and have their views incorporated into the results because there are no controls on who completes it. And this is my key point that I've been making over the last couple of weeks. It's the same as the Victoria study and the Massey University study. They are ripe for abuse of the process, and as a result, their conclusions are worth nothing. And you'll see that the survey is completely, and let me just show you the right one here. Survey is completely anonymous, no IP addresses or even location. So it may not even be Kiwis and Aussies completing the survey. I was sent the survey. It could be going all over the world. And you'll note here that there are definitions included. The usual, transgender, gender diverse, non-binary, gender fluid, all the usual made up terms, but it actually gets interesting because you'll see there up the top, brother boys and sister girls, which apparently are terms used in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture to describe a masculine or feminine spirit. Although that doesn't actually mean a change of sex, does it? And then it says, do you live in New Zealand or Australia, and are you currently enrolled in your final year of undergraduate medical degree? But there's no checks on these questions. The research is ripe for activist groups to influence the whole process and the academic conclusions reached. To see the problem? It's all anonymous. Now, before we go any further, here's the main problem that they haven't thought about. The study is about endometriosis and gynecological care, not one of my expert areas, I confess. But if I'm not mistaken, and I'm no doctor or medical professional, I have a degree in accounting, but according to Endometriosis New Zealand, endometriosis is a common inflammatory disease estimated to affect 176 million individuals worldwide in their reproductive years, and 120,000 in New Zealand. This means that roughly 1 in 10 girls, women, and those assigned female at birth in New Zealand will have endometriosis. Those assigned female at birth. This group passed the woke sniff test. But the website does say, can teens get endometriosis? And the answer they say is absolutely yes. Quote, it's really common for symptoms to start in the teen years, sometimes from the very first period. So as I said, I'm not a medical doctor, but it seems that only females, XX chromosomes, get a period, can get this. But just to make sure that I had got this right, I went to the Mayo Clinic in the US just to ensure that it's not a specific transgender or gender diverse people issue, that it is a female issue. And this is what they showed me.
Endometriosis is a condition in which cells similar to the lining of the uterus or endometrium grow outside the uterus. Endometriosis often involves the pelvic tissue and can envelop the ovaries and fallopian tubes. It can affect nearby organs, including the bowel and bladder. So, during a menstrual cycle or period, this tissue responds to hormones, and due to its location, frequently results in pain. Endometriosis causes surrounding tissues to become irritated and potentially develop scars and sticky fibers that bind tissues together. In some cases, endometriosis can cause cysts on the ovaries. These are called endometriomas. Fortunately, there are effective treatments to manage and treat endometriosis.
This will be interesting.
There are some possible explanations of what sparks the endometrial-like tissue to grow out of place, but the exact cause is still uncertain. However, there are some factors that make someone more likely to get endometriosis, such as never giving birth, menstrual cycles occurring more frequently than every 28 days, heavy and prolonged menstrual periods that last longer than 7 days, having higher levels of estrogen in your body, having a low body mass index, having a structural issue with the vagina, cervix, or uterus that prevents the passage of menstrual blood from the body, a family history of endometriosis, starting your period at an early age, or starting menopause at an older age.
Yep, definitely female, and pretty shocking that they only show females in the video clips. Now, just to reassure you that I have checked this out, the occurrence of endometriosis in men is extremely, extremely rare. But only a few examples of endometriosis in men have been reported in the literature, and the prevailing risk factor is prolonged exposure to estrogen. You know, that womany thing. So the good news is that we have the research and the treatment. So why do we need this new research from Western Sydney University? What are the barriers to care for transgender and gender diverse people with endometriosis? You know, females with a female issue. That pesky biology. Well, let's do the survey. So firstly, it's what is your gender? And of course, there is quite a choice there, the usual. And then there's the ethnicity question and the specialty of medicine area that you want to enter. Now, remember that there's no checks on any of this. The whole staff of InsideOut or the Green Party or some other activist group could be filling this out to influence the outcome and the research. And then getting down to the real issues. Did your gynecology information include transgender diverse people presumed female at birth? Is gynecology referred to as women's health? Yes, terrible. And then have you had any indoctrination on transgender diverse healthcare in your degree? Then they ask, have you had to study these things, the effects of cross-sex hormones, pelvic exams and persistent menstruation and reproductive health screenings for trans people? Well, now I'm not a biologist, I'm an accountant, but irrespective of how you identify, only females will need these things. But as I said, I am just an accountant. And then they say, how good are you at the following? Performing a sensitive gynecological exam. What, you mean it's different because of how you identify? Using gender affirmative language, discussing gender and sexuality with patients, managing endometriosis symptoms in a transgender man or non-binary person, managing endometriosis symptoms in a cisgender woman. Yes, an actual woman, screening for those things. And then questions to check your understanding. And there were a few interesting ones here. Potential adverse effects of gender-affirming hormones and puberty blockers. What? You mean there's some adverse effects? Who knew? Informed consent. Now remember, this is talking about a teen who has no idea of what's actually happening to them, so that informed consent is never going to be reliable. And then there's some test questions to see how woke you are. Do you agree or disagree with these statements? Gender diversity is a natural expression of human diversity. Genders outside of man and woman are new. Genders outside of man and woman are made up. Gender-affirming hormone therapy can be life-saving healthcare. The term people with periods is erasure of women, or is the term people with periods inclusive of TGD people who also just happen to experience periods, probably because they are women. And then they ask, is the increase in the number of trans and gender diverse a fad, or is it due to increased representation and visibility? And interestingly, they say, can psychologist and psychiatrist care replace hormones? Well, you'll probably know how I answered that one. And then they ask, how comfortable are you with prescribing cross-sex hormones for a transgender man, a transgender woman, a non-binary person, and a menopausal cisgender woman? Apparently, all biologically different to what a normal doctor would encounter, apparently. And then probably the part that the researchers are most interested in, they want to know how much we should be indoctrinating gender ideology into medicine, and then to check your political view to see if you're on the left or the far right, and then whether you're religious or a spiritual. Now, this was interesting. Apparently, according to these academics, religion is understood as an institution to which you belong and or believe in, and spirituality is a search for the sacred by individuals who are looking inward. Bet you learnt something new today from the academics. And finally, how much does your religious spiritual beliefs influence you? In other words, are they getting in the way of the gender ideology? And what religion are you? Now, the interesting thing I found was Christianity is not there. Christian is not there. It's either Protestant or Roman Catholic. I also noted there's a nature religion. So there it is. You'll note that the survey has very little to do with the diagnosis and treatment and barriers to care for endometriosis. And it's everything to do with pushing the transgender ideology into the curriculum. Now, ironically, while having a look around the Western Sydney University website for this McBLOG, I came across this post on their website. It was posted by the Western Sydney University's NICM Health Research Institute, Australia's leader in integrative and complementary medicine research and policy. Endometriosis costs women and society $30,000 a year for every sufferer. And further down the article, how many women have endometriosis? I know, shocking. But the good news is this was 2019. And, well, Western Sydney University have got it sorted out. They've got their deity in order, their DEI, their woke qualifications, and now they've got a whole section on equity and diversity, including sexuality and gender diversity, gender equity, although I'm not sure how they can get that gender equity when they can't actually define what is a woman. And you'll also see there they've got a plan to guide the university in working towards a 3 to 5 year whole of university plan of major strategic work in relation to sexuality and gender diversity and inclusion at Western Sydney University. Although, unfortunately, if you believe that only women can get pregnant or have a period, then that diversity and inclusion might just not include you. But to re-emphasise the key point I'm making here, this academic research is ripe for abuse and manipulation because the process is so weak and compromised, and as a result, the conclusions are worth nothing. Remember that next time the media quote an academic expert from a university like Victoria, Massey University, or Western Sydney.